These farmers adopted a baby sheep and raised it as a human. You won't believe what happens next. It was a dark and stormy night. The wind howled like a banshee and the snow fell in thick sheets. It was a cold, harsh winter, but the figure trudged through with determination. We see things from their perspective as they stumbled through the snow, breathing ominously. Whatever it was headed towards something. A herd of horses saw the figure from afar, and their ears pricked up. They stopped and stared for a moment before turning away in fear. We cut to a barn full of sheep huddled together. They all seemed to sense something outside and they began breathing heavily. Their breath steamed in front of them as they counted their blessings, or whatever sheep do when they're scared. Suddenly, they heard heavy breathing outside the barn. They turned to each other in terror, then ran away from the door as fast as their hoofs could carry them, except one little sheep, who after about 3 minutes, stumbled out in front of the others before collapsing on the ground. Next up, we get acquainted with Maria and Ingvar, who were a childless Icelandic couple who met on farmersonly.com. Today's sponsor, just kidding. They lived a rather bleak, lonely, secluded life, but they had each other and 2 pets, a dog and a cat, who they named Dog and Cat. Every day, Maria and Ingvar tended to the fields, fed the sheep, and helped them give birth. It ain't much, but it's honest work. One day, Maria and Ingvar are tending to a pregnant sheep. In fact, it's the sheep that collapsed earlier. The sheep gives birth and the couple is shocked. They lock eyes but exchange no words as they stare at the small bundle of fur on the ground. It takes them a few moments to realize that this isn't just any sheep. It's a miracle. We don't get to see the baby sheep just yet, but we can tell something is special about it. Maria looks at her husband with a face that seems to say, "Can we keep it?" Ingvar knows arguing with the wife is futile, so he timidly accepts. Maria loves her new baby sheep, treating it like her own child. Ingvar, on the other hand, is having a hard time processing the situation. One day, he sees Maria rocking the sheep in her arms, singing softly to it. He stands there for a moment, watching his wife with an expression of hurt on his face. Later that day, he breaks down crying in his tractor, perhaps because his wife prefers spending time with the sheep over him. Sometime later, Maria checks on the sheep in the barn, and one stares at her angrily, as if to say, "Where is my baby, Maria?" Later, this sheep breaks free and calls for its baby by the window. Creepy. One day, Maria leaves Ingvar alone with the girl they now call Ada. When she returns, Ingvar tells her that Ada is sleeping on the couch, but when they check, she's gone. They search all around the house as well as the river, but can't find her. While at the river, Maria hears a sheep go baa and goes to investigate. On closer inspection, they find that it took Ada. Well, what do you know? It's the same sheep, Ada's true mother. They comfort the girl as we catch our first glimpse of the miracle baby's body. It's half human. As they walk home, the sheep follows fervently. Maria turns to it and shouts, "Go away." It stops and stands there thinking, "Ma, that's my child, man." I don't know, I think that's how sheep talk. I'm sorry. At home, the couple tucks Ada in and looks over her lovingly. Ingvar has grown to embrace things because happy wife equals happy life. Time passes and Ada grows. While frolicking in a field with her daughter, Maria stops to pick some flowers. She fashions them into a halo for Ada, who is now old enough to stand on her own. Suddenly, we cut to a car stopping in the middle of the road. The passengers get out, open the trunk, and a man emerges. He gets tossed aside like garbage. He proceeds to stumble through the field for hours. Meanwhile, Maria was having a nightmare. She saw what appeared to be sheep, but they were out of focus. As the image cleared up, Maria could make out their glowing eyes and blank expressions. The sheep were staring at her with an intensity that made her stomach drop. She woke up suddenly, breathing heavy and sweating despite the cold night air. She looked over at Ada in her crib. Everything was fine. Then, she heard something outside, a sheep's call. In that moment, she knew who it was and what had to be done. Maria got out of bed and grabbed a boomstick. She made her way towards the door and the dog tried to stop her, but nothing was getting in her way. She stepped outside in the rain and marched towards the sheep that stood before her. It was Ada's mom. She aimed carefully at its head and put the creature down. Now, I assure you it's only sleeping okay she's dragging its corpse. Look, listen. Oh god, she's digging the grave. Maria returns home, shovel in hand. All the meanwhile, the mysterious man had found their home and saw everything. Maria washes off inside knowing she did what had to be done. We cut back to our mysterious man, waking up in the barn. He didn't want to open his eyes. He was still exhausted from the day before. But when he did, his eyes were met with the sight of what appeared to be a sheep standing like a person. By the time he fully opened his eyes, it was gone. The man left the barn and greeted the owner, who turned out to be his brother. Turns out Ingvar was expecting him. Peter, that is. They went inside for breakfast and sat down at the table with Maria. They call in their daughter, who, sheepishly, enters. Peter is shook. He holds his tongue as she approaches the table. However, his expression said everything. What are the sheep doing? Later, Peter helps his brother paint by standing there and looking cool. Then he wanders off and sneaks a peek at Maria, who's playing with Ada in the tub. Wholesome, Ingvar comes in to check on him and is met with a stern look of disapproval. Peter asks him what in the actual heck he's looking at, and Ingvar responds, happiness. At night, Maria brings Ada into Uncle Peter's room to say goodnight. She makes a combination of sheep and human noises, and a creeped out Peter reluctantly returns the gesture, saying goodnight. Ingvar is also in the room, and as he departs, Peter tries to have a word with him, though Ingvar stops him dead in his tracks, saying there's nothing to talk about. He tells his brother he can stay as long as he needs, but he best not interfere with their way of life. After, we learn that Peter's the type to get into trouble often. He probably owes some people some money again. Another reason not to buy NFTs. The next day, the trio are driving a tractor through the field when they see Ada playing with the dog. Ingvar stops the tractor to go get her, but while he's gone, Peter makes a move on Maria, only to shame her for what he believes she's doing with Ingvar. You're playing house with a sheep, Peter says. And I mean, he ain't wrong. Later, he reinforces the point by feeding Ada grass, which she happily munches on because she's a sheep. A furious Ingvar charges forward, warning his brother to let a good thing be. It's an animal, not a child, he barks back. Okay, but surely you can see she's at least like 90% human, right? I guess not. Peter reflects in his room. Whatever he's thinking, the thoughts don't seem to be happy. That night, he sneaks into Ingvar and Maria's room and snatches Ada. He walks her outside, but not before grabbing the gun. They go for a little stroll down the field before Peter prepares to send her to sheep heaven. But this is only Maria's dream. She wakes up and finds that Ada is indeed gone. She rushes out of the bedroom, calling Ada's name. In the living room, her eyes lock onto something. Ingvar and Ada are fast asleep together on the couch. Wholesome. Or are they? We immediately cut to Ada's tombstone. Maria sends her prayers and good vibes before walking off with Ada. Oh, the tombstone must be for the first Ada. Their actual daughter, who I'm guessing, is now rip in peace. As the weeks pass, Ada continues to grow on Peter. And Maria now trusts him enough to take her on adventures. They go fishing and have a swell old time until the tractor breaks down. They make it home, but Peter's upset. Ingvar comes to the rescue with some drinks and a football game. The family watches, glued to the screen. Though, the match proves heartbreaking, so Maria switches things up with the VHS tape. Oh my god, it's Peter, back when he was a young singer. He's initially embarrassed, but quickly gets into the swing of things. The family starts dancing and goofing around. Meanwhile, Ada wanders around, finding herself outside. She runs over towards the dog, then freezes. In the reflection of her eye, we see some kind of beast. It breathes heavy, just like the figure from the beginning. Ada runs back home while the dog takes a closer sniff. All we can hear next is the pupper's final whimpers. Ada returns inside and tells everyone what happened. Just kidding, she's a sheep, remember? Everyone heads to bed, with Ada accompanying her dad. She lays on his chest while staring at a picture of sheep. Her imagination conjures up some harrowing sheep screams as she stares deeper and deeper. The next morning, Maria and Peter reminisce on the eventful night they all had. Then, things get a little sussy. Peter reckons they could make things even better, but Maria declines his advances. The sour Peter counters, devilishly asking if Ada knows that Maria put her mother down. Whoa, that's crossing the line, buddy. With no other option, Maria submits to Peter's blackmail. He follows her to a door, and she kisses him. Oh, Peter, ladies and gentlemen, we got him. Maria proceeds to drown out his screams with some loud piano playing. Though, she hears something strange outside, so closes the door. Must have been the wind. Oh look, there's the dog. He's resting. Inside, Maria checks in on a sleeping Ingvar and Ada before letting Peter free. She tells him they're leaving. They head out while Ingvar and Ada wake up and have breakfast. He wonders where they all went, but isn't too bothered. Meanwhile, Maria and Peter step out of the car. She reminds him that Ada is something special, a new beginning. Peter agrees and is ashamed of his actions, but understands what has to happen. They walk towards a bus and hug before he departs for good. Classic Peter, just couldn't let a good thing be. Back to father and daughter. They head out to repair the tractor, but Ingvar has no luck. They make their way home as Maria arrives. She calls out for them, but of course they're gone. Suddenly, a gunshot is heard in the distance. Maria runs over as we cut to Ingvar, bleeding. Another shot follows, but who was behind it? A giant man-sheep hybrid, of course, and it's here to avenge his wife's death and take Ada. Ingvar has collapsed and Ada mourns him. He tries to hold on to her, but she's dragged away by the thing. Marie eventually catches up, but only finds her husband already lifeless. She weeps, holding him in her arms. Then she walks off and just accepts what happened. Moral of the story? What does sheep do?